I will, I think, mute everyone. And then just remember, if you want to talk, just press your space bar and you can speak. So yeah, settling yourselves. Actually, now you've checked that you've got space for your arms there. I'd like you then to bring your hands onto your belly, first of all, just for a couple of cycles of breath, and then we'll bring our arms back out to the sides. So, hi, Sarah. You are in your usual space, I wasn't sure. So yes, so hands on your belly, lying either with your knees bent or your legs long. And we're starting by gathering our attention into our breathing. And for a few cycles of breath, just see how it is to be lying down with your hands resting on the front of your body, feeling your breath coming in and feeling your breath leaving you. So maybe feeling one more cycle of breath moving through you, feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. Then from here, I'd like you to come back to that place that we were checking out to start with. So bringing your arms onto the floor at shoulder height. And hopefully you've all got enough space there. I'm not going to hit blue, Sarah. So that's it, arms on the floor at shoulder height. And, sorry, my bin truck's arrived, but it won't be long. Seeing how it feels to breathe with your arms in this position and how maybe we feel a bit wider through the front of the chest. And that means perhaps we feel the breath a little bit more in the rib cage. So letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave. Giving time for your body to settle down onto the ground. So perhaps one more cycle of breath here, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then from here, what I'd like you to do is cross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top. So yeah, and then see how it feels for a few breaths just to breathe here. So you've crossed your arms over your chest, you've got your right arm on top. And how does it feel to have a few cycles of breath in a very different position? So perhaps here, we feel that we're opening up a bit across the upper back. And again, you may feel your breath in your ribs, possibly even if you've got your hands, one hand or both hands on the side of your rib cage, you may feel the ribs expanding as you breathe in and narrowing as you exhale. And then you're going to take your arms wide again for a couple of breaths onto the floor. So let the arms come out wide again. Back to seeing how it feels to breathe here with the arms wide and resting on the ground. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And after one more cycle of breath, you're going to again cross your arms over your chest, this time with the left arm on top. And I can't see all of your arms, but just make sure that you've got one arm completely on top. So that it's, in a way, it's the elbows. You've got the elbows stacked. You've got the left elbow in front of the right elbow and the whole of the left arm in front of the right arm. And have a couple more cycles of breath here. And again, feeling your body receiving the in-breath, maybe expanding with the in-breath, filling up. And as you exhale, that feeling of emptying, of maybe feeling heavier on the floor, of perhaps softening a little bit. And then when you come to uncross your arms, this time just rest your arms down by your sides. And if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. So feel the contact of your footprints on the floor, feel the back of your pelvis on the floor, and then just start to let your knees tilt a little bit to the right and to the left, and use this movement to help sense into your body. How is your body feeling today? Particularly around this, I often say this whole area of the back of the pelvis, the lower back, so into the hip joints. So this whole part of our body where it's possible to feel a bit creaky, particularly Sheila, if we're doing a lot of gardening. Anyone else? Good, very nice. Lovely, knees tilting to the right and to the left. Just once or twice more. And then pause in the center. What I'd like you to do is fold your right knee into your chest. And then from there, take that leg up towards the ceiling and give it a bit of a shake out. So the right knee folds in and then you take it up to the ceiling, give it a little shake out. Don't stay there too long, Nigel. And then what you could also do is just lengthen that leg out on the floor and give it a little bounce or a shake on the floor. Good. And then bend that right knee, stand that foot on the floor. And do the same thing with the left leg. So fold the left knee in towards your chest and then take the left leg up towards the ceiling. Give it a bit of a shake out. That's it. Give the leg a shake out. And then you can also do the same thing by taking that leg so it's long on the ground. Maybe bouncing the knee a little bit up and down, rolling the leg. And then once more, bending that knee, standing that foot on the floor. So you're back to having 2 feet standing on the floor side by side. And what I'd like you to do is just start to rock your pelvis a little bit up and down. So tilting your tailbone off the floor and then arching the lower back away from the floor. So keeping it quite small. So one direction you're tipping your pelvis towards your head, and in the other direction you're tilting your pelvis away from your head. So we're flattening out the curve of the lower back and then we're exaggerating that curve a little bit. And what I'd like you to do from here is from the movement where you're flattening out the lower back, tipping the tailbone off the ground, then I'd like you 2 or 3 times to roll up and down into bridge pose, keeping it quite easy, but just seeing how it feels today at this point in time. So how does it feel to sink the weight into your feet, to let the pelvis come off the floor, to feel some of the spine pick up off the ground? And then how does it feel to try and place the spine back down onto the floor? And particularly as we get around the lower back, that feeling of placing the vertebrae down one by one, which may or may not be possible. So 2 or 3 times, rolling up and down, seeing how that feels. Keeping comfortable, just sort of quite exploratory at the moment. So you can do, maybe perhaps finish off the bridge pose you're on now, or do one more if you'd like to. We're going to do a couple of other things and come back to bridge pose in a moment. So from this bridge pose, you can then fold your knees into your chest. Hold your, yeah, that's it. Hold around the top of the knees or the back of the thighs. Do a little bit of rocking from side to side across the back of your body. And you can also take your legs up to the ceiling and give them both legs together now a shake out if you like. Or, you know, whatever feels nice when you take your legs up there. You can add your arms in if you so wish. You don't have to take your legs up. And then when you come back down, organise yourself so you've got your right knee bent and your right foot standing on the floor, but your left leg is long. So we're going to come into this one where we're pressing into the right foot only. So Sarah, nice to see you back again. Good. So this movement that you all know well. So we've got the right foot standing on the floor. We're pressing down into the right foot and letting the pelvis lift on the right side of the body. Oh, it's nice to see Atticus there in the background, Tracy. So good. So a few times in your own time, pressing down into the right foot, feeling the right side of the pelvis lift away from the floor, noticing how this feels in the rest of the body. So it might be that you feel that you open out a little bit in the front of the right hip joint. You might notice how it affects the ribs. Good. And let's carry on with the same movement, but let's add in that same crossing of the arms over the chest with your right arm on top. So you all know this one. So if you cross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top, so now as you press into your right foot, you also roll across the back of your shoulders. That's it. So you roll towards the back of the left shoulder and your right fingers can reach out on the floor on the left side. So you can sort of reach away from your body with your right fingers. Good. Keep thinking about sending your knee forwards. So your right knee is still moving forwards over your footprint rather than going too much over towards the left. That's nice. And just see how this feels. So it's much more movement now that we're rolling over on towards the left side of our body. I'm just gonna, I think I just realised I left my water out in the hallway. I'm just gonna grab it. If you do that a couple more times. Yes. Maybe once more on this side, pressing down into that right foot. That's it, rolling across the back of the body. And then before we come on to the other side, just uncross your arms. Might be quite nice to lengthen out that right leg and just be long on the floor for a moment if that's comfortable for you. Giving your legs a little bit of a roll, bouncing your knees. Now do make sure you're warm enough, everyone, because I was doing I was attending a class myself on Saturday and it was a lot of lying down. We will be up and standing in a bit and I got a bit cold. So the temperature has gone down. Okay, so yes, lengthen both legs out and then organise yourself. So now you've got your left knee bent, your left foot standing on the floor. And when you're ready, starting to press down into your left foot, letting the left side of the pelvis come away from the floor. Think about sending the knee forwards over your standing foot. That's good. There, well done, Aditi. That's nice. Good. So yes, how does it feel on this second side? So we just start off with the pressing of the foot movement. We see how that feels. How does it feel in the front of the hip joint? So as we think about the knee moving away from us, as the pelvis lifts, we open a little bit through the front of the left hip joint. And also as the pelvis lifts, it takes some of the ribs with it in the left side of the body. So we might notice feelings, sensations around those places. And then when you're ready, you can add in the arms. So crossing your arms over your chest with your left arm on top. And as we were on the other side, pressing down into the left foot, rolling across your upper back. So your weight rolls towards the back of the right shoulder and your right fingertips might reach out away from your body on the floor. No, your left fingertips, sorry. So as you roll towards the left, your right fingertips might reach, no, your left fingertips might reach out on the floor to the right. Completely confused you now. Yeah, that's it, good. Those, yeah, well done. I can see the fingertips. You know what you're doing, even if I'm not making any sense. Good. So just a couple more times on this side. And then uncrossing the arms, lengthening out the legs. Giving the knees a little bounce or the legs a little roll if you like. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Feel the length of your body resting on the ground, supported by the floor. And when you're ready, you're going to revisit bridge pose. So with both feet on the floor a couple of times. 2, 3 times if you like. How does it feel now to come back to this rolling up and down through the spine? And so what we're looking for in bridge pose is this feeling that we can sink our weight into our feet. And then can we find a little bit of, what would it be, mobility, fluidity in the spine as we roll up and down. It's like we're giving ourselves a bit of a massage around all those little muscles that are around the back of the spine. Good, very nice. So making this your last bridge pose. Rolling up and down. In a moment we'll be coming off our backs, but before we do, just a couple of last things. So if that's your last bridge pose, you could either lengthen your legs out or fold your knees into your chest. If you folded your knees into your chest, you could take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. And then the very last thing we're going to do on our backs is coming back down, bending the knees, standing the feet on the floor. And one last time, giving yourself a hug with your arms. So crossing your elbows over your chest. And it doesn't matter which arm's on top. Now you're going to let your knees and your elbows and your head all rock to the right and then to the left. So you're rocking side to side across the back of your body. Very nice, lovely. So again, we're giving ourselves another bit of a massage across the back of our body. So here, do as much rocking as you like from side to side. You can end up on one side and have a few breaths there, and then we're going to be coming all the way over into standing from here. So I say it's very nice seeing the animals. I can see Blue's head and nose, and I can see Atticus's tail, very elegant tail. Coming over into standing, I might, I'll leave you muted, but if you want to unmute yourself, I'm really happy for you to do that. So come into standing and just take a moment to arrive in standing. So it might be looking at your feet. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to, we might be bodily in standing, but our brain might still be back down on the floor, our mind. So maybe do a little bit of swaying from side to side. So I think I've probably said this before, that we think about standing as a process that takes us time to feel settled and here, present. This depends on many things, how our body's feeling, what's going on in our lives. We're going to come back first of all to a couple of the first movements we were doing. So from swaying, if you settle in standing, you might want to look at your feet and then stop looking at your feet. And as you breathe in, take your arms really wide. So feeling wide in your chest, and then give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. I'm just saying which arm so that you don't have to think about it. And I'd just like you to have a couple of breaths here. So you could close your eyes. And again, see if you can feel your breathing in your body. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Dropping your shoulders down away from your ears. then from here with an inhalation, again, we'll take the arms wide, go wide through the front of your chest. And then as you exhale, give yourself a hug with the other arm on top. And again, let the shoulders drop. Maybe close your eyes, see if you can feel your body expanding with the inhalation. Narrowing up with the head out. Expanding with the inhalation, narrowing as you exhale. So feel one more cycle of breath here. Feel the breath coming in. Feel the breath leaving you. And then release your arms. Give your arms a little bit of shake out. Give your legs a little bit of a shake out. So we're going to come into some more movements now, but we'll come back to our breathing in those movements. So first of all, come to this one, which we do a lot. Sort of easy swinging twist. And I suppose what we're thinking about today is a lot of movements through the front and the back of the body. How we can open out in the front of the body, how we can close up, and the same through the back of the body. You can be slapping your arms onto your body. Very nice. Okay, we will stop in a moment. So let that go. Settle back down, and then we'll come into the one that I always tend to do with that one now, this reaching up through one side of the body. So as we reach up, we shift our weight into the leg and foot. So if we're reaching up through the right arm, we shift our weight into the left leg and foot. So we can feel that whole side of the body lengthening out. Now in a moment, we're going to sweep forwards into a forward bend, but as you go forwards, if your lower back is feeling a little bit vulnerable, you might want to rest your elbows on your thighs. So from here we can sweep down. We might want to pause halfway with the elbows on the thighs and the knees bent a bit. And if that feels fine, then you can release your head, your arms all the way down to the floor. And so forward bend is very much a process. This first forward bend, we might feel a bit tight, particularly in the lower back, also in the backs of the legs, maybe in the neck. Really let the head hang. Let the breath come in, and as you exhale, roll back up into standing. Now we're going to just sort of touch on these movements and come back to them. What I'd like you to touch on is this looking up. Maybe with your hand on your pelvis, looking up and letting your pelvis come forward. So the whole body responds to that, looking up. And then rolling down. So looking down, rolling back into a forward bend. Again, pausing with your elbows on your thighs if that's better for you. But rolling all the way down into a forward bend. How does this forward bend feel? We won't stay too long. We'll just let our head go, let our arms go. Let the breath come in, rolling back up, sinking into the heels, keeping the head heavy. Come back to being in Tadasana. And then going on a bit. So have one hand on your belly and one arm up. See how it is to start to look up and let the belly come forwards, the pelvis come forwards. Just keep it easy. Roll back down again. All the time, these are very exploratory. We're just trying to see how the front and the back of our bodies feel without pushing anything. So in your forward bend, let the head go, let the arms go, feel rooted in your heels, let a breath come in, rolling back up into standing. If you can remember which hand you had on your belly, have the other one on your belly, your pelvis, so I keep saying belly, but really it's sort of as low down as possible. So we can let the gaze come up and we can go back a little bit. And we can come down into a forward bend. And then we'll just do this one last time for now. So let the breath come in from your forward bend, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. We're going to take both arms up, but keep it really small. You don't have to go very far at all. Just that, what's it like if we start to look up a bit more? Doesn't have to be all the way to the ceiling, just up the wall a bit and let the pelvis come forwards, let the weight come towards the front of the feet. Okay, and then sweep back down into a forward bend. Have a couple of breaths here, or a couple more breaths, should I say. And you could do your weeping willow movement where you're trailing your hands around the front of your footprints. Nice. So you just want to be really floppy and fluid in your forward bend, as long as that feels okay for your lower back right now. Might also be nice to then pause in the center for a breath or two. The knees can be as bent as you like. Let the head go, let the arms go. And then letting a breath come in, exhaling, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. Good. So we're going to come to the back of our mat and we're going to come down and do a few things on hands and knees and then come back up into standing. So come towards the back of your mat. Just feel yourself here. We might do a bit well because it'd be quite nice to lengthen up. So we'll bring our hands into prayer pose. When we're settled, are we all there? We'll let a breath come in. As you exhale, you can take your arms down and then up. You could do a little bit of that reaching again here. So reaching up into one arm, reaching up into the other, letting your weight shift into the reaching side. And then from here, we will sweep down into a forward bend. And from our forward bend, we will go on into dog pose. So forward bend for a couple of breaths. And then on into dog pose and just seeing how dog pose feels today. So it's not always, I find, the most satisfying dog pose going from a forward bend, but you may like it. Bend your knees as much as you like, particularly if your shoulders are feeling there's a bit too much weight there. Bend your knees so your pelvis can move back. And again, we won't stay there too long. We'll come down onto hands and knees and we'll settle on hands and knees. And we're going to do a few cat movements here. So settling on hands and knees, nice big handprints on the floor, and then rounding the back to the ceiling, dipping the spine to the floor. So we're coming back to these movements where we're thinking about, we're feeling the front and then the back of the body lengthening out. So when we round our back to the ceiling, we get longer through the back of ourselves and the front of our body gathers up. And when we dip our spine down to the floor, the back of the body gathers up and the front of ourselves opens out a bit. So a couple more times, rounding and dipping. Rounding and dipping. And when you're ready, from your rounded cat, you're going to rock your hips back over your heels into child pose. And if you're not so keen on child pose, you could move on into kneeling. But just see what's going to feel nice for you right now, just to have a couple of quiet breaths. So if you're in child pose, you're feeling the contact of your forehead on the ground. Make sure your elbows are down. You're letting your breath come in. You're letting your breath leave you. From child pose, or if you're in kneeling, we're going to come onto hands and knees again. And then people who were in either Thursday evening class or Friday morning, we did this movement then, just now we're doing it again on Monday, Monday people, which is we're going to be lengthening one leg back behind us, and then we take this eventually into lunge. So you've lengthened one leg back behind you. Maybe the first thing you do is tuck your toes under and really let the back of the leg lengthen out. And then what you can do is roll around on this back foot. You can roll side to side on the underside of the toes, the ball of the foot. You can also come onto the top of the foot and roll around on the top of the foot. You can roll through the sides of the foot towards the heels. So we're just exploring what movement we can do with the leg outstretched behind us. And then from there, we take this leg out to the side a bit more. So look at me if you're not sure, and some of you might remember this from ages ago. And we roll around here. So now we've got a bit more possibility to roll onto the heel. Again, it's very exploratory. You can be coming on, tucking the toes under. You can be coming onto the top of the foot. And particularly here, as we roll around on the foot, we really start to move into the hip joint. And then from this position, with the foot out to the side, we then obviously need to bend the knee a bit to bring the foot up here to the outside of our hands so we can come into lunge. So I've brought my foot to the outside of my hands, and then I feel I could probably walk my back knee back a little bit more. So tucking my back toes under to come into lunge. So just see how that feels and have a few breaths here. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And I'm keeping my hands on the inside of my knee. You don't have to. You could walk, and if you have walked your foot in between your hands, that's absolutely fine. But you could also be keeping your hands on the inside of your foot. Let another cycle of breath move through you. So let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then we'll take that leg back. You might need to bring your back knee in a little bit, and then see if you can take your leg sort of back by going out to the side. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So I'm just turning around. I don't know if you need to see me. So legs and your other leg back behind you. First of all, it might be the toes tucked under. Then it's rolling around. You could roll side to side on the ball of the foot. Come onto the top of your foot. You could roll towards the heel a little bit. That's nice. Good. And then let the leg come out to the side more. And how far you go is, what's comfortable for you. And here we've got a bit more possibility of really rolling around through this leg. So maybe rolling onto the heel, coming onto the top of your foot. So there's a lot going on here. We're working into the foot, we're working into the ankle, we're working into the hip joint. Hopefully making sure the knee feels happy. And then from here we come into lunge, and there's a whole load more things going on in lunge. So we're going to start to bend the knee and shuffle the foot round. Might not be the most elegant movement, so our foot comes onto the outside of our hands to start with, and we tuck the toes under in the back leg. So if, like me, you feel your back leg could walk away a bit more, you can do this at that point. And then it's up to you whether you keep this foot on the outside of your hands or you walk your foot in between your hands. So you've got options there. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Now, after this lunge, I think it might be quite nice to do a dog pose. And you could either do that straight from lunge. You probably want to have your foot in between your hands. Or you can walk your foot back out and around. Come back to hands and knees, and then settle your hands down and move up into dog. So dog from the floor, tucking the toes under, exhaling, rocking the hips back and up. See how it feels to come into a dog pose from the floor, and I'll have a little look at you. So again, as I've talked about standing and forward bend being a process, dog pose is very much a process of how can we little by little take the pelvis further back so the shoulders can undo more. Good, good. It looks very lovely, everyone. Yes, taking the pelvis further back, but maybe not the hands too much. Usually bending the knees, bending one knee. Yeah, whenever you've had enough time in this dog pose, you can fold back down into child pose or kneeling and have a couple of quiet breaths. So take the weight out of your hands. Good. Oh, that's good to see, Linda, that you're warm enough and wanting to take a layer off. Yes, okay. Yes, when I was doing this class on Saturday, I had to actually put the heating on, which I couldn't quite believe, but there was a lot of lying down. So it might be quite good from your child pose to come into kneeling. You don't have to, you could be sitting down in kneeling, or you could be up in kneeling, just because I'd quite like you to give your hands a shake out before we do the next couple of things. So what we're going to do first of all is the fox balance, where on hands and knees, and as you know, we take the opposite arm and leg forwards and back. And it's about trying to feel steady and stable here. Always, I find this one quite challenging. So from being settled on hands and knees, when you're ready, you can exhale, take one leg back and the opposite arm forwards. And then just see how it feels to be in this position. Trying to feel that you're long from your fingertips through to your back heel or your toes. So sometimes I quite like to point my toes and then point my heel. Yes, I don't know, helps me stay present here. Another breath or two, and then we'll try the other side. I might have a look at you on the other side. So when you're ready, you can come back down. Settle your hand and knee on the floor, and as you exhale, take the opposite arm and leg forwards and back into fox pose on side 2. So make sure your gaze is down at the floor, probably just in front of the fingertips that remain there. And again, this trying to feel long from your fingertips through to your back heel or toes, depending what your back leg is doing. Good. Well done. Very nice. Come back down when you're ready, and again sit back into up or down kneeling. So you could be up on your knees, just giving your hands a shake out. Because we're then going to come on and see how plank pose feels. And it's probably, yeah, it's not as wobbly as fox pose, but it has its own challenges. So we want to feel the really big handprints on the floor, the shoulders over the wrists. We're looking down at the floor, perhaps level with the fingers, the fingertips. And then taking one leg back and the other leg back into your plank. And again, I'll come and have a little look. Very nice, you're all pretty fantastic at your plank poses. Good, and just, yeah, seeing how does it feel today? Can you breathe there? That's very nice. And whenever you want to, coming down, we don't need to have a sort of plank pose marathon. We can give the hands a little shake out again when we come down. And we're going to do another plank pose. And this time we'll move from plank into dog. And from that dog, we'll walk our hands into our feet into a forward bend and up into standing. So, but do give yourself, I'm sure you'll be thrilled to hear, do give yourself a bit of time in plank pose. So once again, organising your shoulders over your hands, looking down, maybe level with your fingertips, taking one leg, taking the other leg back behind you. So trying to feel that your pelvis is in this long straight line with your shoulders and your heels, really stretching your heels away from you. And you know when your pelvis is in that straight line because you'll feel your abdominals start to activate. You don't need to do it, they will do it. And when you're ready, you can exhale, you can take your pelvis up and back. It's quite a long dog pose. You can have a breath or two in this long dog. And then maybe walk the feet in a little bit. So you're in a dog pose that feels an enjoyable length. And then have a few breaths in dog before you come into your forward bend. Letting the head go, resting through the hands, sinking into the heels. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then when you're ready, start to walk your hands in towards your feet. It's taking your time until all of the weight's in your footprints, particularly in your heels. You can let your head go, Bend your knees as much as you like, let your arms go, let the breath come in, and as the breath leaves you, rolling up into standing. So arriving back in standing. And again, give yourself a moment in standing just to see how it feels to be here once again. So you can look down at your feet. You can just settle here. And what I'd like you to do a few times in this standing is this one, where you see I'm bouncing on my heels. May not be your favourite one. So you're picking your heels up and then you're dropping them down onto the floor. So a little bit of bouncing. Yeah. Good. And then slide one foot forwards and just do a little bit of foot tapping on the floor. So you could be tapping your foot up and down, and you could be tapping it. I've just got my hands on my pelvis to keep my pelvis facing forward. So you could be tapping your foot in a little bit of a circle, semicircle, quarter circle even. Good. And then do the same on the other side. So slide the other foot forwards and do a little bit of tapping your foot from side to side. Then settle back down in standing and take a moment to close your eyes and hopefully feeling your feet on the floor, perhaps from those bouncing and tapping movements. And again, you could sway a little bit from side to side if you like. And then we're going to, we're going to revisit our rolling up and down movements first of all. So, and just see how they feel after the things we've done on hands and knees. So what I'd like you to is perhaps with both hands on the front of your pelvis, just letting the pelvis come forwards, letting the weight rock more towards the fronts of your feet, looking up a bit. And then looking down and rolling down into a forward bend. All the way down, letting the head go, letting the arms go. You can also notice how this forward bend feels. Perhaps the legs, the back of the legs are loosening a bit, maybe the lower back. Let the breath come in. As you exhale, roll back up into standing. Good. And then back in standing, one hand on the front of the pelvis, one arm up. How does it feel to look forwards and up a bit more? Pelvis coming forwards, weight shifting towards the front of the feet. And then back down again into your forward bend. Rolling back down, letting the head go, letting the arms go. Letting the breath come in as you exhale, you can roll back up again into standing. Keep all these movements quite easy, so you don't have to feel that you're really pushing yourself. You have the hand on the front of the pelvis, but just seeing how does it feel to let the front of the body open. We look up, we let the pelvis move forwards. Front of the body opens. Rolling back down, and then we'll do one last one with both arms coming up. Rolling back down into your forward bend. Actually, I think we might have just done one arm coming up. So this time you could either choose to take one arm up or both arms up. And again, how does it feel to let the front of the body open, the pelvis move forwards, the gaze come up? We're trying to do all of these things in equal measure. Let the tailbone drop a little bit. Oh, that's it. So tailbone drops. So it might be helpful for some of us to bend the knees and see if we can get the pelvis to move forwards a bit more with the knees bent. Arms coming up. Good. That's nice. And then all the way down into your forward bend. And in this forward bend, have a couple of extra breaths here. And again, this sense of how does your forward bend feel now? Can you be very rooted into your heels? Maybe the backs of the legs feel a bit like that, you're starting to ease out. Noticing how the lower back feels. And then let the breath come in as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. Good. I'm having a little bit of a shake out in standing. So we're going to settle in standing again. We're going to do a little, I say, sort of a called tiny tree pose, a sort of mini tree pose. We're going to do a bit more movement and then come back to tree pose again. So in standing, just have a look at your feet and then close your eyes. Settle yourself in standing. Come back again to swaying from side to side. And this time you're swaying from side to side. And you're just thinking about the fact we're going to come and stand on one leg and foot. And so as you're swaying from side to side, you're just thinking, okay, is there one side that feels a bit steadier? I'm going to stand on which foot? I'm going to do my easy side first, which is the easy side. And then when you've decided, you're going to open your eyes. You're going to start to, so we're going to just, all we're going to do is we're going to bring the foot onto the ankle. You could have a few toes on the floor. And we're going to bring the hands into prayer pose. So this sort of little mini tree, tiny tree. So you're going to shift your weight onto whichever foot you're standing on. Your other foot's going to come on your ankle. You could have some toes on the floor. And you'll bring your hands to prayer pose. It's very sort of small and hopefully quiet. Seeing how good this little tree pose feels. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And remember, if you sort of topple out, that's absolutely fine. Always have some toes on the floor. Okay. You might be wanting to stay there longer. That was getting sort of just about enough for me. So settle the feet back down for a moment. So look at your feet. Settle the feet, bring your gaze forward. So you've got a focus for your gaze somewhere in front of you, on the wall or a few meters ahead on the floor. And then shifting, possibly not on the screen, shifting your weight onto the other foot. And just again, how are you going to organize the foot you just stood on? Are you going to have a few toes on the floor, or are you going to bring that foot completely off the floor? And then if we gather the hands into prayer pose at the breastbone, that just helps us to come to our center, maybe connect with our breathing, and see how it feels standing on this second foot. I certainly know for myself, it feels a little bit more wobbly. So our intention is for steadiness, but we can be forgiving of ourselves if the reality is not quite the same. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Very nice, well done. That looks fantastic. Down, have a little shake out. Is everyone okay? Are we okay at the moment? Yes, yes, good. We're going to, I wanted to go back to something we did last Monday, which was a bit of sun salute, taking out the lunges and then adding them back in again. So I just thought it would be good to, and I think, yeah, some of you might, we also did this on Wednesday, but I think it's just quite good to come back and revisit. A week ago seems like quite a long time at the moment. So you're going to come to the front of your mat and I'll talk you through. Very creaky floorboard here. So at the front of your mat, settling your feet down, bringing your hands into prayer pose in front of your chest. So we're going to think about moving our body, and we're going to try these different options with the lunges and hopefully find something that works for everyone. So from here, when you're ready, let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Drop your shoulders, let a breath come in. And then as you exhale, curling forwards all the way down into your forward bend. Now, what we're going to do from here is we're going to step the right foot back, but like into a mini lunge. So we're just actually coming down. But you're not trying to come into lunge. You're just stepping your foot back a little bit. Yeah? So look at me if you're not sure. And then from here, we're going to step the left foot back to join it. So we come onto hands and knees. And if you're in a teeny weeny hands and knees, you might want to lengthen out a little bit. So we're on hands and knees. Yeah, excellent. We're all there. And then from hands and knees, I'm afraid, we go on into plank pose again. So you can see how it feels to come into your plank pose here. That's it, nice and long in plank. Gaze down, level with your fingertips. Have a cycle or two of breath here, and then keep your hands where they are. Keep your toes tucked under, bring your knees down. So your knees come down to the floor, but the hands and the feet don't move. And you fold your bottom back over your heels. Keep your elbows off the floor, but you might touch your forehead on the floor. Let a breath come in. And then from here, we're traveling forwards into face up dog. And we're doing that by rounding our back to the ceiling and watching our pelvis come forwards. So this is very familiar to all of you, coming forwards, beautiful, into your face up dog. Untuck your toes when you get into face up dog. Now from here, you're going into dog pose. It could be straight from here, or it could be through hands and knees. So I'm going to go on to hands and knees, then tuck my toes under, exhale up into dog pose. Now it's going to feel like quite a long dog pose. So again, you might want to walk your feet in a little bit like we did earlier. Have a breath or two in this dog pose. And then here, rather than stepping forwards into lunge with our right foot, we're going to come back down onto hands and knees. And at this point, I would like you might need to bring your knees a bit further forwards to your hands. I'd like you to step the right foot forward between your knees. But if you can look at me, I'm not really in a lunge, I'm in a sort of mini lunge. And then from here, I would like you to sink your weight into your front foot so you can step your back foot forwards into your forward bend and let your head go. Let a breath come in. As you exhale, touch the backs of your hands together and roll all the way up into standing, taking your arms up to the ceiling. Let the breath come in, take the arms wide and all the way back, good, into prayer pose in front of you. Lovely. So we'll do slightly different on side two. We might add in a little bit more of the first lunge. So hands in prayer pose, letting the breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Feel long and tall here, let the breath come in. Exhale, rounding down into your forward bend. And from here, we're going to do the same thing where we don't step the foot very far back. We just bring the back knee onto the ground. This is the left foot, sorry if I didn't say. But then from here, what I would like you to do is tuck your toe under in that left foot and then walk your knee back. So you do come into more of a lunge here. But we didn't step all the way into lunge. Now, one of the challenges in plank pose is we have to move from lunge into plank pose. So it might be that you can step from here into plank pose. You might need to go through dog. You might want to walk your knee in a little bit more, come onto hands and knees, and then on into plank. So whatever works for you, from lunge, make your way into plank pose. Arrive in plank pose, have a couple of breaths here, and then keep your hands where they are, keep your toes tucked, bring your knees down to the ground, fold your bottom back over your heels, elbows stay off the floor, but the forehead may touch the ground. Receive an in-breath here. As you exhale, you're going to round your back to the ceiling and you're going to travel forwards into face up dog. Untuck your toes once you arrive in face up dog. Lovely. And again, from here, we move into dog pose. So you could go onto hands and knees, or you could tuck your toes under and go straight into dog pose. It's going to be quite a long dog, so you might want to walk your feet in a little bit. A breath or two here. You can bend your knees as much as you like. And then from dog, bring both knees back down onto the ground. We're not going to do that stepping forward lunge just yet. And from here, bring your left foot forward between your hands. So again, I'm in a sort of mini lunge here. And then to come forwards, we need to press into that front foot. Step the back foot forward. So it's to your best ability, ending up in a forward bend, letting your head go, touching the backs of your hands together as you exhale, rolling up into standing. Now, if you like, here, you could add in a little standing back arch if you want to. So the pelvis, this is the standing back arch, yes, as we were doing. So it's up to you. And then hands back down in prayer pose in front of you. So we'll go on again. Right foot's going to step back this time. So hands in prayer pose, let the breath come in. Exhale, take the arms down and then up. Let the breath come in, long and tall here. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. And then exhaling down into your forward bend. Now this time with the right foot, we're going to see, can we step the right foot back all the way into our lunge? So stepping it further back. And see where you've got to when you end up down on the floor. So you want to have your left knee over your heel, your right toes tucked under. If you need to walk your right leg back a bit more, that's fine. You're in your lunge. And then remember from here, we have to make our way into plank pose. So it could be through a dog pose, it could be straight into plank, it could be through hands and knees. You can come onto hands and knees and then on into plank pose for a couple of breaths. You're long and straight in plank, let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Then let the knees come down. Keep the hands where they are, keep the toes tucked. Keep the elbows off the floor, but maybe touch the forehead down. Let the breath come in. As you exhale, rounding your back to the ceiling, watching your pelvis come forwards as you travel into face up dog. Good, letting the pelvis go, untucking the toes. And then from here into dog pose. So straight into dog pose or through hands and knees. Tucking the toes under, exhaling. It's quite a long dog, so you might want to walk the feet in a little bit. Now, we could try that stepping forwards movement with the right foot into lunge. You might want to come up onto your fingertips in the right hand or in both hands. So if you step your foot forwards, where do you get to? And it may not come as far forwards as you want it to, and you may decide you don't want to do that movement at all. So you can be also coming down onto hands to both knees. So from here, wherever you are, I'd like you to have your right foot between your hands. And I'd like you to, if you need to, walk your back leg back a bit so you are in a lunge now. And then we want to see how can we come from this lunge to a forward bend. We've got to sink into the front foot, push off with the back foot. Step forwards into the forward bend. So again, to your best ability, let your head go, let your arms go. Sink into your heels, touch the backs of your hands together, rolling up into standing, into your little standing back arch, if you like. Pelvis coming forwards. And then back into prayer pose. Good, so we're going to go back down again. Remember, you can do any of the adaptations we did in sun salute if they worked for you better than stepping forwards and back in lunge. So let a breath come in as you exhale, arms down and then up. Long and tall, letting the breath come in. Curling down into your forward bend, letting your head go. So the left foot is going to step back. Just step it back as far as you can. See where you end up with this lunge. If you need to walk your foot back a little bit more, you can do. A breath or two in lunge. Remember, from here, we're coming on into plank pose. You can go, yeah, as you know, through dog, you can go straight into plank. You can come onto hands and knees and then organise your hands. Lengthen your legs back into plank pose. Have a couple of breaths here. Then let the knees come down, keep the hands where they are, keep the toes tucked. Folding your bottom back over your heels. Let the breath come in. And then when you're ready, rounding your back, watching your pelvis come forwards all the way into your face up dog. Let a breath come in here. And then on into dog pose through hands and knees if you wish. It's quite a long dog pose, so you might want to step your feet in a little bit. And then think about what you want to do for your lunge. It's the left foot coming forwards. You could be stepping that left foot forwards, or you could be coming down, which I'm going to do this time, down onto my knees, and then bringing my left foot between my hands. Wherever you are, just make sure you organise yourself in the lunge. If you need to walk the back leg back a bit, and then we'll step that back leg forwards into the forward bend. So we push off with the back foot, we sink into the front foot, we let our head go, we let our arms go. Big exhalation, let the breath come in. As you exhale, rolling up through standing, taking your arms up to the ceiling. And then hands down in prayer pose in front of you. So we're going to do that once more on each side. You can again make the adaptations that you want. We might go slightly more quickly. So hands in prayer pose, letting a breath come in, exhaling, taking the arms down and then up. Let a breath come in, rounding down into your forward bend. And the right foot is going to step back into lunge. If you need to walk that leg back a bit more, that's fine. And then from lunge, we'll move on into plank pose, however works for you. And a breath or two in plank. And then let the knees come down, keep the hands where they are, keep the toes tucked, fold your hips back over your heels. Forehead may touch the floor. Let the breath come in as you exhale, rounding your back, travelling forwards into face up dog, letting the pelvis go. That's very nice, good. Letting the breath come in. From face up dog on into dog pose. Stepping the feet in a little bit, they're too far back, and then we'll step the right foot forwards into lunge, however works for you. We want to arrive in that lunge. It's quite easy to miss it out sometimes. And then from this lunge, we're going to step the left foot forwards. We come back into our forward bend. Arrive in your forward bend. Let your head go. Touch the backs of your hands together, rolling up in standing, all the way up. Do your little standing back arch if you like. And then hands in prayer pose in front of you. So one last time through sun salute with the left foot stepping back and forwards. So let the breath come in, exhale, take the arms down and then up. Long and tall as the breath comes in, down into your forward bend, stepping your left leg back, on into plank, into lunge, and then from your lunge on into plank pose. A breath or two in plank pose. And then we let the knees come down, we keep the toes tucked, we keep the hands where they are, the elbows stay off the floor, but the forehead may touch it. Let a breath come in and travelling to face up dog, on and out breath, rounding your back. It's good we all know face up dog so well, arriving in your face up dog, lovely, really nice. And then from here on into dog pose. Walking those feet in if you like. And then last time we're going to be stepping the left foot forwards into lunge, however works for you. Could be coming down onto your knees. Stepping that foot forwards. Arriving in our, you'll be thrilled to hear our last lunge. And then stepping the back foot forwards into a forward bend. Let the head go. Touch the backs of the hands together, rolling up into standing. This time we'll just be long and tall in standing. And then let the arms come back down. Good. Back into prayer pose. Lovely. So well done. Have a little bit of a shake out. We're going to, oh yes, we're going to come back just to a little bit of breathing and standing, and then back into, we're going to say tree pose. Slightly different tree pose perhaps. So after that movement, it's nice to come back to our breathing. So have a look at your feet in standing, settle them down. We're going to breathe in and take the arms wide. So like we did at the beginning of our standing section, breathe in, take the arms wide. Exhale, hug yourself with the right arm on top. Drop the shoulders down. Use this position to have a few cycles of breath where you're really feeling your breath in your body. Yes, and if you like, you know, swaying side to side is helpful, you can do that. So just see if you can feel your body responding to the in and the out breath. And let a breath come in, take your arms wide again out to the sides, really wide arms. And then again, exhale, hug yourself with the left arm on top. So when you've hugged yourself, you're dropping your shoulders down. It's quite nice if you can have your hands on the side of your ribs, or at least one hand there. And then a couple of quiet breaths here where we're just really trying to feel the movement of our breath in our body. So it is helpful if our hands can touch our ribs in some way to be able to help us feel our breathing. So feel one more cycle of breath move through you. Feel the in-breath filling you up. Feel the out-breath perhaps helping you settle in standing a bit more. And then release your arms. Give your legs a little shake out. So the last thing we're going to do in standing is revisit tree pose. But this time you could have your foot a bit higher up on your standing leg. So you're going to stand on the same leg first. And also from here, we will take our arms up if you're feeling steady. So we go a bit further into tree pose if that feels right today. But you could keep it, you know, yeah, depending how steady you're feeling. So you're coming onto, if you can remember, which was the foot you stood on first. If you can't remember, you might want to go back to swaying. Just thinking, okay, which feels my more stable foot? And then just deciding how you're going to have your other foot on your inside of your leg. Okay, so we organise ourselves below the waist, then we bring the hands into prayer pose at breastbone. We have a few breaths here. Again, if we wobble a bit, it's fine, we just come back in. And then from here, if you feel steady and you want to grow your arms up and out, keeping the shoulders soft and relaxed, you can do. Letting the breath flow in, letting the breath flow out. And taking the arms up and wide. It's nice then to bring the hands back into prayer pose in front of you. So regathering back in the center. The shoulders can settle. Maybe can have a few more breaths here. Well done. Looks lovely. Yes, do come down. Have a little bit of a shake out. So I was thinking then about how this tree pose we're doing today, obviously every time we come into it, it's different, but also every time we do it, it also holds within it all the other tree poses we've done over the years. So taking your time, however you're going to have your leg on this side, whatever you'd like to do, whatever feels helpful today. The hands coming into prayer pose. And you know, if like me, this is your less steady side, you don't need to be in a rush to take your arms up. When we have the hands at the breastbone, this is this quietening place of Karmanadi. When you like, you can bring your arms up. It's quite nice that you're doing, Rosie, to take the arms wide and up. Dropping the shoulders down. Feeling the centres of the palms are soft, feeling alive into the fingertips and down into your heel and toes. Beautiful. And then from here we can gather the hands back in front of the breastbone. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Very nice. And then coming down when you're ready. Gosh, oh, I was just thinking how the time's moving on. We're going to come down through a forward bend, on into a squat, and then down into cobbler pose. So if you do need something under your heels, you don't have to have something under your heels if your heels come up, but if you want to stay in your squat, if you want something under your heels, basically. So it'd be nice before you go on from your forward bend into your squats, just give yourself a few breaths in your forward bend and just see how it feels now. So we was talking about forward bend being a process, and just, yeah, where are you in this process now? How do the back of the legs feel? The backs of the legs feel, rather? How does the lower back feel? How does the neck feel? And then from your forward bend, you can start to bend your knees forwards. Might come to that place where you can rest your chest on your thighs, sort of halfway between a squat and a forward bend, which is quite nice. And then carry on, letting the pelvis drop down. And yeah, so just a few breaths in a squat. Feels, yeah, on a block if you like. There's that feeling that we can let the pelvis hang. So this lengthening out of the lower back. It's quite a passive lengthening out. Heavy pelvis, heavy pelvis. And from here, we'll sit down into cobbler pose. So you might just want to use your hands on the floor behind you and sit down. Lean back onto your arms now. So it's going to do a little bit of coming into pinwheel, and then we're going to do a little bit of sitting and breathing, not a huge amount. So from here, let one knee come on top of the other knee. Let your top knee slide back and do a little bit of circling here. So when we come to do some sitting in a moment, it's not going to be for a very long time. I'd ideally like you to be sitting away from the wall so that we could do a little bit of a twist in sitting. So that would probably mean sitting and kneeling or sitting cross-legged, and you might want a cushion for either of those. So when we get to it, we'll have a look and see what works. From here, turn so you're facing the knee that's going out to the side, and you're going to fold forwards. And rest down over that thigh. And just see if you can be heavy and settled and giving the weight of your body down to the floor. And remembering in pinwheel that you are in a bit of a side bend, so that the length through your sides of your body is not going to feel the same. And from here, I'd just like us to go slightly towards that side bend. So you might need to come up a little bit onto your hands. And I want you to see what's it like to then walk over towards this, this back leg, the one that we weren't folded over. So you might not walk all the way over there. What's it like to walk over a bit? Can you go onto your elbows? Can you feel what's going on through the sides of your body? Okay. And then walk back again, come back up, right. Lean back onto your hands, give your legs a little bit of a lengthen out before we come onto side two. I was just thinking about actually what I was saying about not sitting against the wall, and you could sit against the wall. It's just when we come to do a little bit of a twist, you can miss that out, that's fine. So if the prospect of sitting in the room just doesn't sound great, then you can do that. So cobbler pose, let's let the other leg come on top. Let's let this top knee slide back. Let's do a bit of circling here. Circling, circling. And so it's sort of up to you where you like to spend your time in pinwheel. So you could do a bit more circling. If you like the forward bend, you might feel that you want to move on to that. So turning towards this knee that's going out to the side, folding forwards, having a few breaths there. If you really loved going towards that side bend, I'm not quite sure if anyone really loves that, but that would be another way to spend your time. So you felt that you wanted more time on this side to explore that side bend further. So this is where we would be walking our hands over towards our back leg. And we don't have to walk all the way towards that back leg. We might come towards the middle. So we can be folded over our thigh as we normally are, or we could come more towards the middle. So we're folding down in between both legs. We're in more of a side bend, but it's perhaps more comfortable than trying to go all the way over towards the back. And perhaps we'll spend a little bit more time with this on another day. So you can, from here, wherever you are, walk your hands in towards you. Give your legs a bit of a lengthen out. So I would like you now to come into a comfortable sitting position. So it could be against the wall. I'm probably going to sit, I don't know, I might sit kneeling, I might sit cross-legged in on a cushion. We're not going to be here hugely long time. I just want us to come back to this breathing we did, like here and here. And we're also going to take it on, Helen, you'll be thrilled to hear, into this one, your number one favourite. So eventually that's what we'll do. So we won't be here a long time, but I just thought we'd see how these things feel. Yeah, so if you're sitting, so it might be good if you're sitting cross-legged. Helen, are you cobbler pose? Because I reckon cross-legged would be, I can't see how you're sitting. Is that cross-legged? Is that cross-legged or cobbler pose, Helen? I can't quite see. Cobbler. Yeah, I would maybe not sit in cobbler pose, because in cobbler pose it's really hard not to end up like this. Okay. That cobbler pose, it sort of makes our pelvis roll back. So I would probably say cross-legged, or you could have your legs on you. Could be kneeling with the cushion. Could be have your back against the wall. It would be fine. Yeah, I think just a normal cross-legged, maybe sitting on a cushion might be easier. How are we? Just a little bit of circling. We won't stay here too long. And then, that's nice. We'll breathe in, we'll take our arms wide. And you're going to exhale, give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. And then what I'd like you to do to start with is just let yourself round forward. So do let your back round out, let your head tip forwards. And then from there, come back upright in your spine. And bring your arms on into eagle arms, yeah? That's it, good. Well done, very nice. Drop the shoulders. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And you can just do a little bit of a twist here from side to side. Good, so turning the shoulders and the head, good, to the right and to the left. Then let the arms go. Maybe just for a moment, lean back onto your hands. Lean back onto your hands and see that's it. Particularly if you're sitting cross-legged, that you can let the legs drop a little bit more. And then come back upright. Breathe in, take your arms wide. And then exhale, give yourself a hug. Oh, it's very nice to see Atticus there. You look so lovely. It's Rosie's cat. Drop your shoulders down. Have a couple of breaths here, and you can round forwards like we did on the other side. Let your head drop, let your back round out. Feel the breath maybe really widening in your back ribs. And then come back upright. Let your spine straighten out. Bring your arms on into eagle arms. And then a little bit of turning to the right and to the left. Good. Very nice. Well done. Well done. And then from here, we're going to lie down. So give your arms a little bit of a shake out and make your way down onto the ground. Helen, I'll just mute you again in case it gets noisy where you are. So we are going to do a little bit of movement. We've got slightly less time than I thought, but I want us to revisit a little bit of bridge pose. So I'm just thinking various variations we would do. So first of all, yes, just lie down onto your backs. And settle yourselves on your back with your knees bent and your feet standing on the ground. And bring the hands to the front of your body and feel the movement of your breath in your body. Feel the breath coming in, feel the breath leaving you. And let the knees come to tilt from side to side. So like, that's it, very nice, good. And then settle in the center, let both feet settle down. And you're going to cross, let's cross the right knee over the left knee. So you're actually crossing your knees rather than, yeah, that's it, rather than having the ankle on your thigh, good. And we're going to do a bit of rocking on your standing foot, which will be your left foot. So if you want to make that foot a bit more central, you can do. But just see how it feels to rock side to side on that standing footprint. That's nice. And then from rocking side to side, settle in the center, still keeping your legs crossed in this way. And then I'd like you to see, you might want your arms on the floor now. I'd like you to see how is it to come up into, be quite a small bridge pose, but with just this one foot on the floor. So can you sink into that one foot and let your pelvis come away from the ground? And can you keep your top leg relaxed and your top foot relaxed? So just try maybe 2 or 3 times, sort of coming up and down, not really staying there too long, coming up and down on that side. So how does it feel to sink into that foot and come into this sort of funny one-legged bridge pose? Good. Very nice. And then you can come back down, you can uncross your legs and maybe lengthen both legs out on the floor for a moment and give the legs a little roll or a little bit of a shake. And then you're going to bend both knees, stand both feet on the floor, and then this time cross your left leg over your right. So we're going to first of all come to the rocking part, which is probably the nice part. So rocking side to side on your standing foot, which should be your right foot now. That's nice. Remember, you can bring that foot so it's a bit more central if you like. And so we're rocking on that foot, and then whenever you want to, you can see how does it feel to stop rocking, to really plant that foot on the floor, and then sink into that foot so that your pelvis comes off the floor and you're coming into this little mini bridge pose, one-legged bridge pose. So you're probably not expecting a huge amount of your spine to pick up off the floor at all. And do it perhaps 2 or 3 times. It's more that how does it feel to sink into that one foot and lift the pelvis. Good. And try and keep the top leg relaxed. I know that's a bit of a challenge. And then what you're going to do after this side is you're going to uncross your legs. You're going to stand. If you want to lengthen both legs out, you can. But what you're then going to do is stand both feet on the floor and see how it feels to roll up and down through bridge pose with 2 feet finally. That's very nice. And so, yes, lovely. Looks beautiful. So sometimes when we, part of the reason for doing 1 foot is we come to 2 feet and it can feel really easy. You can roll up and down 2 or 3 times and just enjoying now that the spine, Nigel, you might want your feet slightly wider apart, I think. You can now enjoy that we can start to feel the spine coming up and down away from the floor. We can feel really planted. You'll look really planted through your feet. Okay. So maybe make this the last bridge pose. Very nice, beautiful. And then you've got a choice of folding your knees into your chest, lengthening your legs out on the floor. If you fold your knees into your chest, you might also like to take your legs up towards the ceiling. You might want to do a bit of rocking first of all, with your feet, legs folded in towards you. Good. And then we'll just finish lying quietly, focused on our breathing. So it might be quite nice to have the hands resting on the front of the body. You can have your legs long or your knees bent. And just this opportunity to settle quietly with ourselves. Make sure you're warm enough. So you obviously put a blanket on if you would like one. Perhaps noticing things. How does your head feel? Would it be nice to let your head roll to the right and to the left a little bit? That might help you to settle. Otherwise, just for a minute or 2, we're going to lie quietly with the hands on the front of the body, feeling the flow of our breath. So I've probably said this many times before, but I think this fact that we have the breath within us is so valuable and so helpful. It obviously keeps us alive, but in terms of our well-being, there's this flow of the breath that's always there, but it's always changing. So we can always come to feeling the movement of the breath, how our body responds to our breathing. But each time we do this, it's going to feel different and familiar at the same time. Maybe to know that there's this familiarity, but also this change is very helpful. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the bowl 3 times. So just carry on lying quietly until you hear the silence at the end of the last sound. So thank you everyone, take your time, there's no rush.